What is up, Rams house? Welcome back into another post-game live stream. Been such a fun season that we've had a lot of these victory live streams, and this game definitely came down to the wire. It was a tight one. First half was very stressful. Second half, Rams started to pull away a little bit there, but the big thing is the Rams ended up getting the win. They still hold the number one seed going into a short week. And man, that game was exhausting. I love these kinds of games when you come out of it on top, especially, but they're definitely exhausting. You kind of go through the roller coaster of emotions. Like even going back to the start of the game, the way that the Rams started their drive there, marched down the field, and it felt like they could do no wrong, whether they were throwing it to Devontae or they were running the ball, having a great opening drive there. It felt like they were just going to go ahead, take momentum early on. And then obviously you had that Aiden Hutchinson, just incredible interception there. Like a lot of people are going to blame Stafford for that. I think obviously you see Hutchinson there, but you don't typically see a defensive end make a play like that. But that kind of sucked the life out of the Rams after that opening drive, and the Lions get a touchdown the very next play after that. And so it felt like for a majority of the first half, the Rams were just trying to climb back in it, and felt like the Lions were just like one step ahead of the Rams in that first half. And the Rams obviously established things there in the second half, and that's what matters. They made the adjustments, and I think that's really what wins the game. Like, which team adjusted better in the second half, and that was the Rams. Because I mean, you look at the kind of the stats in this game, and we'll get into them. They are off the charts, and it really came down to who had the ball last and who was able to make the adjustments. The Rams had more turnovers than the Lions did with that one interception. That was a costly one, but they were able to overcome it by the way that they were able to respond in the second half. And they were able to respond in the second half and come back in this game, end up winning this game in a way that would probably get underrated a little bit or overlooked, I should say, where the Rams were able to get down there. They only had 30 seconds before the half, and they were down, I believe it was 24-14, and an absolute strike down the field to Puka Nakua. I don't know how he got open in such an obvious scenario for the Lions to know you can't let them get in field goal range. And Puka does what he does. I mean, he had 170 yards today, just absolutely went off, stretched the field, got the Rams into range there to make it a one possession game. And I think that was huge going into half with that momentum to make it the one score game, to where in the second half, the Rams really made those adjustments. And it was really cool to see the way the team was able to kind of feed off of each other. The defense was able to make a stop, the big stop there coming out of half after the offense for the Rams got a field goal. And I think that ignited things. That play when Jared Goff tried to go over the top to Jameson Williams on that, I believe it was like a post route. Obviously, Jameson Williams had been cooking us most of the game. At that point, Goff tries to find another one downfield. And I think that penetration from Kobe Turner was everything on that play, because it made Goff miss by just enough to where Jameson Williams had to dive and he drops the ball. Next play, Kobe Turner gets the big sack, and it felt like that's what woke up the Rams defense from there, and it fed into the offense. And the Rams go down, they score a touchdown, defense response gets another stop, and it felt like it was an avalanche effect after that. And I really loved the way that the Rams were able to stay in this game when it feels like in years past maybe this one would get away from them, but they're able to stay in this game even with some of the injuries that they were able to face in this one, make the proper adjustments. And I feel like first half, the big thing that I was noticing with the Rams is their offense was doing good. They were a tick off on certain plays, like obviously that Stafford interception. He had a near interception on it was like a crosser to Tutu Atwell, and it felt like it was just like a tick, just a slight tick off, and where the Lions were kind of dictating things, but the Rams were moving the ball well. But on the defensive side of the ball for the Rams in the first half, we did really good against the run, against Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. That is not easy to do. It's much easier to say, but a lot harder to do. But Jared Goff was ripping us apart. And I think in large part was they were passing on those first downs with our heavier personnel on defense to stop the run. And Goff had a lot of time in the first half to be able to dial up those digs, those posts. And it felt like he could do really whatever he wanted. We weren't disrupting him, getting in his face. So while we were stopping the run pretty decently, it was still able to have enough time for Goff to be able to carve you up. And Goff is a good quarterback in this league. If you give him time, he's going to do that. But I feel like in the second half, again, starting with that drive that the Rams had, Kobe Turner hitting him when he hit that post route over the top and just missed Jameson Williams, and then getting the sack next play, that felt like it woke up the Rams defense, and they started to get more aggressive, get in Goff's face. And you see, he's not like a Stafford where he's going to stay in there, take a bad hit, and just do a laser over the middle 30 yards downfield. To be fair, not many quarterbacks can do that. But you started to see Goff kind of dirt the ball a little bit more there in the second half, or second guess things, or the pressure gets home, and that was everything. It felt like the units were feeding off each other, and the second half adjustments were huge because, I mean, you go and look at the stats of this game. Total offensive yards for both teams. Lions had 395, Rams had 519. Passing yards, the Lions had 325 to the Rams 360. Rushing yards, the Rams kept this in check. This was a big storyline. 70 rushing yards allowed by the Los Angeles Rams to the Detroit Lions. The Rams put up 159 quietly there between Kyron and Blake. And I think the Rams, I think they brought this up in the broadcast. They were willing to sacrifice things through the air, make Jared Goff beat them if it meant stopping the run, because you can't let the run beat you, exhaust you, and have those big plays to Gibbs and Montgomery. So I think they did a good job of that. 70 yards rushing is absolutely incredible against a team like this. And obviously the Rams had the only turnover in this game. They won the time of possession by 5 minutes, and there weren't a ton of penalties in this game. Sacks allowed, there were 2 that the Rams allowed, 2 the Lions, 1. Third down efficiency, Rams were 2 for 9. That was definitely a struggle point there. Lions were 5 for 14. Rams had 30 first downs to the Lions 21. So really the name of the game in this one, and the way I see it, is the Rams were able to adjust in the second half, and that was the biggest key of this thing. If they kept the same game plan, kind of kept it soft there up front for Jared Goff to be able to pick us apart there, I don't think we win this game. I really liked how they're able to change things up defensively, get a little bit more pressure in there, and how the Rams offense was able to respond. And again, that drive right before halftime was massive for the Rams to be able to get that field goal, make it a 1-possession game, and then come out firing there, end up taking the lead, and they just never gave it back after that. It felt like the Rams offense was clicking. I was really impressed with that Colby Parkinson catch down the field. Devontae Adams, it's very unfortunate he gets hurt here, and that didn't look good. He's been dealing with this hamstring for most of the season, it feels like, at least like the last 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm just hoping, like, I don't expect him to play this short week against the Seahawks, but that did not look good. And losing Devontae was just a big loss for this offense. They were able to respond, though. Shout out to that Tutu Atwell catch, picking up off of the ground for his first catch. Is a classic, almost like comeback-looking play by Tutu Atwell. I don't know how he caught that football, but he seems to make impact plays when he's in there. And again, Colby Parkinson stepping up. Guys are able to step up, but you're going to need a guy like Devontae Adams down the stretch here, and I'm just hoping that injury isn't going to sideline him for a while into the playoffs, because it didn't look great there. But obviously, we're focusing on the win here. Rams get a big win, an emotional win. First time the Rams have beaten the Lions and Jared Goff since 2021. And again, we went through the ringer in this one. It was a close game, exciting game. I'm just excited we came out on top. Yet another performance where the Rams put up 40 or more points in a game. We've seen this plenty of times this season, and it's so refreshing to see with all the weapons that they have. And we'll see what ends up happening with Devontae out, if that's going to change anything in the next few weeks. But to be able to come out here, get the win, hold on, because if the Rams lost this game, Seahawks would take first place in the NFC West. They would have the 1 seed, and you'd have to kind of climb your way out from there. But holding on, getting your 11th win on the season, this clinches the playoffs for the Los Angeles Rams, which I don't think gets talked about enough. Just a big game for these guys. And I'll get to your comments in a second. Thank you, everybody who's in here and who's commenting. I really do appreciate you. I want to just talk about some guys who stood out to me in this game. Got to start off with none other than Puka Nacua. I mean, he just goes off. He's insane. We talked about last week against the Cardinals when he went off and his stat line was incredible. He has the capability to do this any week. It's just if the Rams are willing to, or needing to rely on him, because they have so many weapons, so many different personnel usages, that they don't always need him to be like a superhero. But when you call on him, he's always going to be there making plays. And today it was no different. 9 catches, 181 yards, no touchdowns, but every catch he made was impactful. He had a couple long ones down the field. And this is what I love about Puka and kind of the narrative with him. Everybody always talks about how he's like schemed open by Sean McVay or a product of Matthew Stafford. I hear stuff like this all the time. We know what he can do after the catch. He's always guaranteed to get at least 5 or 6 yards after the catch. And we've known that. But it's really cool to see the way the Rams have been able to open them up to stretch the defenses vertically recently. And that kind of goes against the argument of what people say of him being schemed open or just being a slot merchant, like you hear all the time. Like, he is a legit complete receiver that can do anything you ask him to do, and he'll probably do it even better than you expect. In 9 catches, 181 yards. If the Rams don't have Puka Nacua, it's obvious they probably don't win this game, especially with Devontae going out. He was a key contributor to this team, and I just can't believe we get to go out there and watch number 12 go out there and just kill people every week. It doesn't matter who's out there. We know that the Lions were beat up in the secondary, and the Rams took advantage of that. I almost felt like it's funny. We talked about earlier how the Rams had basically 160 rushing yards in this game between Corum and Kyron. And it was a very quiet 160 yards, in my opinion. It didn't feel like they had that many. And when you go back and you look at the splits between both of them and how many times we actually ran it. So Kyron Williams had 15 for 78, 2 touchdowns, and Blake Corum had 11 for 71. So they still ran it in a touchdown there. They still ran it 26 times. And it didn't feel like that. It felt like the Rams were dropping back almost every play, and protection was a little bit shaky at times. It's going to happen. It's Aiden Hutchinson and Al-Quadin Muhammad. I mean, they've been doing it all year. I definitely felt that pass protection was a little bit shakier in this performance than what we've been accustomed to. Stafford was taking a lot of hits, but I also felt like we were pretty pass reliant for a while. But either way, like the Rams were able to move the ball. I think Stafford's performance may get like dampened a little bit, or like people may be like a wet blanket with his performance because the interception. I just still think that's an incredible play by Aiden Hutchinson. And the fact he was able to read out that screen, contort and make a catch that some running backs can't even make. I mean, that's just a great play by him. And Stafford, I still believe, is the front runner for MVP and continue to stack up wins. So yeah, Puka Nacua, going back to him, 9 for 181 yards. Just absolutely incredible what he's able to do. I want to also shout out Devontae Adams in here. He's been a guy, like, I think he also has the capability to go off any week. If you put like a game plan around Devontae, he can still be that guy, but the Rams don't ask him to be. Even in 12 or 13 personnel, which they run a lot of the times, you only have one receiver. We saw quite a bit this game. Konate Mumfield was the only receiver out there. And then obviously Puka gets his time in there. And then you see Devontae get his time. So he's not being asked to do a lot. And he started off the game really hot with the first 2 plays being those corner routes to Devontae Adams, and he was doing really good there. He went quiet for a little bit just because like the Rams weren't really relying on him in that way. But when they needed him on those crucial drives in the like late third to fourth quarter, when the game was still tight and the Rams were trying to extend the lead, you get back-to-back deep digs to Devontae Adams, one of them being on third down. And this is why you bring him in. It's that experience. It's that connection between him and Stafford, which they're still kind of ironing out. But he comes up in the big moments, and that's why it's frustrating, man, that you lose him to injury. Definitely hate to see it for Devontae. And obviously, it's just stinks for the team as a whole, too. But Devontae Adams, while his stat line wasn't incredible, when you go back and look at it, he had, where is he? He had 4 catches for 71 yards, no touchdowns this week. I felt like every catch he made was impactful. It was a chunk play. And again, if they needed to rely on him more, I think he would come up with it. It's just there's so many different mouths you can feed on this offense where I don't get hung up on like, oh, he didn't have 100 yards or he didn't have a touchdown. He came up in the biggest moments, and that's why I want to shout him out because he was big in that. But another guy I want to shout out, and this guy I already talked about earlier, is Kobe Turner. Kobe Turner, he made so many incredible plays in the run today, but I want to specifically talk about when the Rams were coming out of half, like I talked about earlier. The Rams defense at that point had been playing pretty poorly. Kobe Turner lights up Goff there on the deep post route that he threw to Jameson Williams, throws off the throw just enough, hurries up the clock just enough for Jared Goff to miss that throw to Jameson Williams. And next play, Kobe Turner gets a sack. That really felt like it not only woke up the defense, but the entire team. And after that, the defense felt like they were playing with a different kind of confidence. And they weren't getting torched left and right. And it felt like the pass rush was beginning to get home. And those hits that Kobe Turner had, not only in that point, but a little bit earlier in the game, really felt like it was getting in Goff's head, and he was beginning to dirt the balls. He nearly throws a pick to Jalen McCullough in the middle of the field if it wasn't dropped. So I want to shout out Kobe Turner. He may not get talked about a lot. He did have the sack, but he also just felt like he really woke this team up, and I want to give him a shout out there. I also want to shout out Nate Landman and Poona Ford. I mean, both these guys, again, as the broadcast mentioned, it felt like the Rams were selling out to stop the run, and they were going to let the passing game do whatever it may with the Lions. I hope Jared Goff makes a mistake, and he did. He threw it right to McCullough. He just dropped the pick. But I think that game plan worked. I mean, it had you on the ropes. Your offense was going to have to continue to answer and respond for this game plan to work, but you have the offense to do it. They put up 41 points. And you look at it, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown had 13 catches, 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. He just felt like he was everywhere. It almost felt like 2021 Cup to me. And then Jameson Williams, 7 catches, 134 yards and a touchdown. These guys were going off, but I think it was partly due to them being great players. But on top of that, the Rams just trying to stop the run. As you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, 13 carries, 38 yards. Dave Montgomery, 7 carries, 32 yards on a touchdown. And even Gibbs was shut down in the passing game. And that's all you can ask for against a guy like that. And so I think the additions of Poona Ford and Nate Landman were big in this game to really be able to keep that run game in check while the pass game really ate you up, especially in that first half. I think the game plan went just as planned, and Nate Landman and Poona Ford deserve a lot of credit for that. And Matthew Stafford, why not shout him out there? The future MVP of the league here, playing like the MVP of the league. Again, that one interception people are going to probably look at and just point to that being like such a bad thing that he was able to do there and just kind of dampen the performance he had. But really after that, Stafford was playing well. He had a couple of strange plays that happened where he was like, ooh, that was like a tight window, almost interception kind of plays there. But overall, he made incredible throws. He hit guys in stride. Just missed that one to Terrence Ferguson down the field. And I loved on that drive, going back to that one drive that we had to score the touchdown. I really loved how you had opportunities, two fourth downs on that drive where you went for it, even on a 4th and 5. You got both of those, and you end up getting 7 points out of the drive where Terrence Ferguson was just missed for a touchdown there by Matthew Stafford. I love the aggressiveness from McVay to stick to his guns, use his weapons, get down the field and get the touchdown there. And I was just really proud of them to be able to go for it because you needed points in this game to win with your game plan that you had and with the team that you're playing against. So those are the guys that stood out to me. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be concerned about all the passing yards that we let up and everything like that. I'm just happy that you get out of there with a win against a really good team with really good receivers, and you stop the run game. You sacrifice what you did in the passing game, and it worked. You won the football game. Now you turn your heads to the short week, to the Seattle Seahawks. That's going to be a massive game in Lumen Field, Thursday Night Football. I believe they'll be wearing their rivalry uniforms, and we'll probably not have Devontae Adams, which hurts a lot, but I do have confidence that this Rams team can still maybe at least put up a really good fight there in Lumen Field, keep it really close at the very least, and that should be a fun game. So those are my thoughts on everything. I'll get into your comments. I know I'm super behind, so I'm sorry about that. Just had to get all my thoughts out of the way. Striker's Corner, thanks for coming in. He says, let's go playoff bound. That is massive. That is huge to be able to win this game. Obviously, we have our eyes set on the number 1 seed, getting that taken care of, but we have the right to now because we have clinched a playoff spot. Nobody can kick us out from here on out. So now you're just hoping you stay healthy from here on out and you're able to, make some noise in the playoffs. But yeah, getting that playoff spot, that is massive. Now we just got to hope for that number 1 seed. Rams Room says, great game, made halftime changes and got the W. That's honestly the best way to put it. If you're just to tell somebody who didn't watch this game how it went, that's basically what it was. The halftime of changes and the adjustments that they made is what won the game. If they don't adjust and don't make those changes at half, and if they don't get that 3 points before halftime came, I don't know if the Rams win this game. So shout out to the coaching staff. Shout out to the players adjusting and believing and coming back in this game and taking it from the Lions. Ashroyd, thank you for coming in. It's a stressful game. Man, holy moly. Yeah, that was definitely a stressful game. I love stressful games if you come out on top. They're heartbreakers if you lose them. But blowouts are fun, obviously. But stressful games, if you can get a win on that, it's like it feels almost like a little bit sweeter. Like you can hold on to it a little bit longer in the week. So just glad we got the win. Parkinson's got a block better. Also, thanks for bringing up Parkinson. That was another guy I wanted to shout out in my standout players. He obviously had that deep play down the field and got an amazing touchdown there from Stafford. It almost looked like Nakua for a second when he went up there. I thought it was for a second. Got a big touchdown there, but just love the Colby Parkinson storyline here with the Rams because you bring him in, kind of pay him a big contract coming from the Seahawks. You have high expectations for him. Is a big guy, really good blocker, but also plays well as like a big kind of receiver for Stafford. And the first year did not go well for him. He was a guy that a lot of us wanted him to be cut. And even mid-season, this season, a lot of people were throwing Parkinson into trade conversations. But I love the way he's been able to step up with the Rams in this season and be better and be the number 1 tight end since Higbee got hurt. He's really owned that spot. And I feel like there hasn't been a big drop off there. I don't know if you're talking about the block that he had against Hutchinson, where Hutchinson got free there and almost knocked Stafford down for a sack. I mean, like a tight end against Aiden Hutchinson probably won't go well most of the times. But honestly, I feel like Parkinson played really well and a guy is worth shouting out for sure. Sewell was holding Verse all game, like as usual. Yeah, I mean, like if you don't hold Verse, he's probably going to disrupt your game plan there. So I don't know why we didn't get any holding calls in there, but if you called it, you could probably find it every play against Jared Verse, to be honest. Puka put up 181, metal yellow, first red. Yeah, that's man, that was just incredible. Puka Nakua back-to-back incredible performances. Is he going to match that PFF grade that he had from a week ago? That was like the highest PFF grade by a receiver ever. That's my question. Either way, what a job by Puka Nakua. I'm really glad that he didn't have those cramps stick around for the Rams, and that it wasn't a more serious injury. Because if you lose Puka and Devontae, like these are the engines of the offense. So I'm glad that we at least got good news on Puka Nakua with all that. Yeah, that strike to set up the field goal was massive. I agree with that. He says also Verse and Young sitting out there at halftime was funny. Yeah, I think it's funny. It also just speaks to like the competitiveness of them. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to skip ahead a little bit in the comments here just to catch up. I'm very behind here. I want to go to Asteroid Boss says Stafford was off today though. Hopefully he locks in this Thursday. And I couldn't agree with you more there with Stafford just being a little bit off. But what I love about this conversation is like I even found myself being like, man, Stafford's off today. I wish he was just having like his normal kind of Stafford day. But the funny thing is Stafford's off day is like a top day for any other quarterback or most other quarterbacks in the league. And that's what I find funny about it is like I caught myself being frustrated at it for a little bit. And I was like, he's still playing incredibly well. He obviously had that interception, but yeah, him even just being a tick off, like we're so used to the high level play that he has where like, we're like, oh man, like I wish he was on his game fully. And yet he still puts up a crazy performance. But what are his stats in this game? I'm actually curious to see because he made a lot of big time throws for the Rams, a lot of no looks too that we saw there. So he was 24 for 38, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, took 2 sacks. I thought he played really well, but if you watch enough Rams games, you'll definitely notice it'll be like, oh, he like wasn't quite on his game, but even that was enough to be able to get the win. And it was only like a few isolated plays where I was like, that's like old Stafford. Like this year's Stafford, you don't typically see that stuff. So agree with you. Great win. Puka torched the Lions D so bad. Yeah, every time Puka Nakua plays the Lions, you're at least going to get a deep shot to him. You guys remember back in that wild card round, back when he was wearing 17, his rookie year, that double move touchdown that he had early on there. And then last year, he got hurt in the game, and it was in the first quarter, I believe, that sidelined him for a while. So it was really nice to see him going up against this defense, and he put on a show. It's definitely the best receiver in football, in my opinion. David, that's a sweet Nakua jersey. Yeah, thank you. This is a kind of like a double here because he used to wear 17. Now Devontae Adams has 17, so I'm kind of supporting both of them. You got Devontae with the 17, but Nakua on the back, so I appreciate that. Has Higbee lost his job to Colby? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think that Higbee is healthy yet, and he's still in street clothes right now. I don't think he's lost the job yet. I would say that Parkinson has earned more playing time for when Higbee comes back. You obviously do 13 personnel, and for a majority of the time, you're going to have 3 tight ends on the field. And so either way, I think both Higbee and Parkinson are still going to get a lot of playing time. Now, as far as who's like the true number one, I still think Higbee keeps that job, but Parkinson is making a good argument for himself. And so that's definitely a good point you brought up there. Protection was definitely not good, and I'm worried about Thursday. Oh, that's the one like weird thing about this game. It felt like an anomaly game. I talked about this in my preview video where the Lions, no matter who's playing for them, who's not, no matter what their roster is, under Dan Campbell, it feels like their defense is always scrappy and plays better than what the names are on there. Now, they have good players on the front, no doubt about that, but I felt like you had a bunch of guys in there that, like a lot of casual football fans wouldn't know that we're playing well. Even it was like there would be times when 3 different guys on that defensive line for the Lions won. And so I just think that they play a little bit higher than what the like rankings would say there. And I think the Rams offensive line has played really well this season to where I have confidence, but Seattle is a different beast. Like their defense is absolutely incredible and their pass rush wins fast too. So definitely a good bounce back game opportunity for them. But yeah, something was a little bit off with the offensive line. I think the Lions were just playing really physical, really frisky as they always do, and definitely gave us a good fight there because it felt like, especially first half, it felt like Stafford was under duress a lot of the times. And shout out to them with what they're able to do there. But hopefully the Rams are able to bounce back for sure. What's up, Rams House? How about that win, baby? What's up, Juno Trooper? Good to see you. That win feels good. Winning close like this always feels just a little bit sweeter to take in for the next week. So thanks for coming in, Juno. Sportsaholic, thanks for coming in. Says MVP for sure. Agree with you there. Rams doubled the Colts and Seahawks scores combined. Isn't that crazy? Again, to put up 40 points again. The Rams have been doing this multiple times this season. Definitely not complaining. And this is a game that you needed every point that you could get because the Lions still came back and were kind of close to taking this one. So putting up 41 points, getting the win, couldn't be happier here for the Rams for sure. Descendo, thanks for coming in. It says Puka. Yeah, that was or as Aaron Donald would say, Puka. Incredible. I love having Puka as our receiver. It's crazy that they got him in the 5th round. Like, I still look at that and like, man, I know that like he didn't have a great 40 time. His measurables weren't great. He had like some injuries in college, but like, how did the NFL and even the Rams pass on him that many times? Like, it's incredible. Rob, thanks for coming in. Says, unfortunately, Higbee and Havenstein have lost their spots as starters. I would say I definitely agree with the Havenstein one. I think McClendon's playing absolutely incredible this year. This is probably his worst game, but like that's not even like he didn't have a terrible game, but like out of all the ones he started, this is probably his weakest game. But I definitely agree that it does feel like Havenstein kind of lost his job a little bit. But it is really nice to be able to have two good options in case you have McClendon go down maybe later on in the season. You still have Havenstein there, but Higbee, I'm still not 100% sure. I mean, he doesn't look the same as he used to all the way back when he was drafted in 2016. Obviously, he's been in the league for a while, but I guess we'll see what ends up happening. It again, using 13 personnel this much, both Higbee and Parkinson are going to still be on the field a lot of the time. So I don't really know if we're going to notice any difference there, but yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. Asteroid says, hopefully Devontae isn't out for long. We're going to need him in the playoffs. That's exactly my thought. And you always hear McVay saying, like, we're going to be smart with this player with injuries, and it comes to that. And I think that's definitely going to be the case for Devontae. And it's just unfortunate because, like, this is a massive game coming into Thursday night against the Seahawks at their place. You're going to need Devontae. I don't think he's going to play in this game. And my question is, like, is Devontae going to miss the next, like, 4 weeks just to play it safe? Because he was on the ground for a while, and he's been dealing with this hamstring for a while. And so I think that McVay's going to try to play it smart. I think worst case scenario, he wouldn't be back until like the first playoff game that the Rams have, maybe longer, but that's kind of pushing it there. I'm just curious to see if the Rams are even going to let him play again in the regular season, which is unfortunate because he was on an incredible tear and he's helped this team so much. Peo Time, thanks for coming in. Says big W. That was a massive W. I'm sure your watch party was a lot of fun there with a game like this. Definitely a fun one to experience with a bunch of people in the chat, I'm sure. Ducendo says huge win, absolutely massive win. Sometimes I think AD is wearing Kobe Turner's uniform. Man, Kobe Turner, what a game he had today. It's just, even on the plays he didn't get the tackle or the sack, it just felt like he was just disrupting things. He was getting in the backfield, and you can never go wrong when you see the Kobe Turner little conductor celebration in there. So I appreciate the comment. Was that a perfect third quarter? That's a good question. I think given the way the game was going, I think you could argue that that was a perfect third quarter right there. And that's the third quarter the Rams needed. And just again, speaks to the adjustments that they're able to make there coming out of halftime, and the coaches that they have to be able to make those adjustments, really come out and the defense establish themselves. And how many points straight did they score there? Was that like 14 or 17 consecutive points the Rams scored, maybe even 20 coming out of the half there? And so they definitely woke up there, and obviously the score ended up being 41-20 or 41-34. But the Rams did come out in that third quarter and they put up a good show there and definitely made the adjustments that they needed. They started hitting Goff, and guess what happened? He got scared. That's the key. You got to get in his face. You got to disrupt him. He is good against the blitz, and he had some good throws against the blitz there. But yeah, like rough him up, get back there. He's not going to beat you with his legs, and I really think that you saw that coming into play there. Some of the throws that he missed, and again, almost forced it. Like he forced it right into Jalen McCullough's hands. McCullough just didn't come up with it, but that's definitely the key against Jared Goff. Parkinson's disease in effect 2 games in a row. I like what you did there, Descendo. Rams are playoff bound. Seahawks next. Playoff bound. That is massive to be able to get that spot clinched. You never know what's going to happen to end the season. It just feels good having that spot clinched. Yeah, you're right. Next, though, the Seahawks. That's a big game because whoever wins that game is either going to maintain or take the number one seed from here on out. So that's going to be a big one, huge one in Lumen Field for sure. 202 NBA says, Devontae, man, no, this is the worst possible time. Yeah, that's, I guess if there's a positive to look at it, is you know that you're going to play the Seahawks this week, and that's unfortunate. It's on a short week, but the only positive with it is you have that hamstring injury. They're kind of like up and down depending on like what the player is, on how long they take to heal. But you're going to have like a mini bye in there because for Devontae, I fully expect he's not even going to practice and play this week. So I think he's going to be able to rest up all the way up to the Seahawks game. You play that game, then you have the mini bye coming back, and your next game is going to be Monday Night Football after the bye. So that's an even longer week for the next week. And if you don't play Devontae versus the Falcons, I don't think it's a hot take. I'm not incredibly worried playing the Falcons, but they can be scrappy. And so you're going to have a good amount of time there for him to be able to heal and recover, and having that mini bye is going to be huge. But I just wish, like you said, it's the worst possible time for it to happen, especially going into the playoffs and down the stretch here. Striker's Corner says that autograph helmet looks awesome. Hey, man, I got to shout you out again. That was just absolutely, I was not expecting that helmet. That was just incredible to be able to get. I want to thank you again. I still haven't figured out like a good setup permanently for all this stuff, like trying to configure things, but I was like, it has to go in the background. Like before I start this, I got to get it in the background. Juno Trooper says we stopped Gibbs, gave up all the passing, but stopped Gibbs. Yeah, that definitely felt the game plan for sure. Descendo says Parkinson will show up next game too. Yeah, a little rivalry game there against the Seahawks. He scored a touchdown against the Seahawks last time out. So hopefully we get that rivalry game. I definitely would sign up for that 10 times out of 10. And with that Devontae Adams injury, maybe the Rams will lean a little bit more into 13 personnel and use their tight ends there. But Seahawks do match up well against 13. So that's going to be a fun chess match for sure. Striker says, if Adams is unable to play, Jordan Whittington, Konate Mumfield, and Tutu Atwell would be asked to step up. Yeah, and those guys are definitely capable. I mean, Tutu Atwell barely got used this game. Feels like that's like the mystery man in terms of the contract they gave him and how willing they are to actually play him there. But yeah, they definitely have guys capable. It's just like the Rams have really good depth at receiver, but you never can replace a Devontae Adams. What I'm most curious about is Devontae Adams, and even some of the coaches have said that Mumfield reminds them the most of Devontae. And Devontae said when he retires, he thinks that Mumfield's going to take that spot, and they're similar in route running. So are the Rams going to put that belief in him and that stock into him and use him more in Devontae Adams' role in the games that he's going to miss? Or are they just going to do like a committee approach of Whittington, Mumfield, Atwell, and just kind of like rotate them around there? So that's going to be an interesting one to see. Carlos says, can you please talk about the Rams cornerbacks? They are pathetic. Yeah, that performance, yeah, they definitely got pretty beat up in this game. And it felt like, again, every single play, receivers were open. Now, it felt like Goff had a lot of time to operate in that first half, and receivers get open when they're that good. But yeah, they definitely were dicing us up there, and definitely wish that we had a good like shutdown corner right now, especially against opponents like this. But I also just wonder how much of that, I mean, I guess you can't really game plan to just try to lose against wide receivers, but it felt like the Rams were allocated resources. I'm going to start over. It felt like the Rams were allocating resources to stop the run more than they were to stop the pass. But I felt like second half they adjusted there better. I was very confused when Akella Witherspoon was inactive for this game. Like that definitely threw me off a little bit there, seeing that coming into this game, because I think he would have been. I mean, he's not like a top shutdown corner, but I feel like he maybe would have fared better there. Kobe Durant and Forbes definitely didn't have a great game, but they're also great receivers. So hopefully we're able to clean that up, because that was I don't think we've seen them play that bad since probably the Eagles game all the way back then. So hopefully they'll clean it up. The cornerbacks are worse in football. Forbes is pathetic. Durant is pathetic. They stink. It will cost the Rams the Super Bowl. I think the Rams can definitely win more games in different kinds of ways than just relying on their cornerbacks to play well. And I don't think every team needs a shutdown corner to be able to win a Super Bowl, even if you go back in the past like 5 and 10 years of teams that make and win the Super Bowl. Not all of them have shutdown corners. And the Rams have had games like that Bucs game where their corners were playing really well. Durant had a game, like a crazy game, and you saw Emmanuel Forbes had like 5 pass breakups there, an interception. Durant had that interception. So like, they are definitely by no means the best cornerbacks in the NFL, but I don't think it's going to cost them the Super Bowl. I guess it just depends on the matchup, and it depends. Like if you're in a shootout, yeah, maybe you could argue that for sure. And I just don't know if this one game is going to make me sway in one way and think that the Rams don't win a Super Bowl now because the cornerbacks we have. They certainly played bad and they've had some bad games this season. But I think the Rams have built their team where it's not all on their cornerbacks to win their one-on-one matchups. And the Rams don't always play one-on-one man coverage. Today they did a lot, but usually the Rams do a lot of zone kind of coverage. And I do think that the Rams cornerbacks play better in zone than they do man. This game just felt like a bad matchup to me. Matthew 9, verse 8 says, Rams defense runs shut down the best 1-2 in the league aside from our 1-2. I think what you did there at the end there. Yeah, that was definitely very impressive to see what they were able to do against Montgomery and Gibbs. They let up only 70 rushing yards there. And the kind of game that it was more of like a passing-oriented attack for both teams, but definitely cool to see what they did there. They tackled well. And even Gibbs, when he got dumped off like there in the short game, the Rams were able to tackle well too. Big Higgs is hurt. Parkinson is good, though. Oh, yeah, he's referencing back to that Parkinson or Higbee being a starter kind of conversation. Rams' offensive line was great. I felt like they weren't terrible. I just felt like out of the games recently, they definitely were letting up some pressures on Stafford, especially first half. It felt like there was a lot of disruption there. Now, again, the Lions have good pass rush for sure. This was nowhere near what week 1 was like last year, and the Rams offensive line shuffle there. But I definitely felt like there was definitely something to be desired there. But again, you're playing a good team. Like what can you expect? Just hope the Rams bounce back there. This was the game to use Tutu, and the coach missed again. Yeah, the Tutu Outwell storyline, I honestly have no answers for. I want to keep him around because I think there's still potential. But at this point, it's like they don't really use him that much. I'd rather him go out and get other opportunities and get used more, Grandizer says, Rams House, sorry I'm late. Did you give your game balls out to the Rams players and coaches in the win? I did, but thanks for coming in and reminding me there, Grandizer. Striker's Corner says, if we had Cup, it wouldn't hurt so much about Adams' hamstring. Yeah, I think I really do think the Rams have good depth behind Devontae Adams. With Jordan Whittington, he's got good experience there. He's been called to step up even last year when both Puka and Cooper Kupp were out. Whittington stepped up in a big way and had a couple 100-yard games. Tutu Atwell has done great things in this league when he gets opportunities, so maybe his role increases. And Konate Mumfield, I mean, he's definitely like a later round pick, but he's played well and he's played a lot of action. So I think the biggest thing that hurts about losing Devontae is there's not really a one-to-one comparison right behind him. Whereas like in the past, if you lose a Cooper Kupp, you like that stung really bad, but you knew that like Whittington's very similar skill set to him, and you would kind of see that skill set in the Rams wide receiver room duplicated with like Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, even Robert Woods in the past of that kind of skill set. Devontae is like a very different kind of route running savvy receiver, veteran in the league. The best route runner I think the Rams have had in the McVay era, to be honest. And so replacing that with the guys that they have, I think they have guys to step up, but they're not even close to like one-to-one comparisons, except for if you want to argue for Mumfield, because again, they've made comparisons to him being like Devontae Adams in his route running. So it's just going to be interesting to see how the Rams attack it, because I don't think any of these guys, aside from maybe Mumfield, can even play the kind of role that Devontae was playing. Just because he's just such a refined route runner, and certainly the red zone offense is going to take a hit. Davis Allen is decent too. Hope Tate is back soon. Yeah, I hope so too, man. In my mind, I'm thinking he's going to miss at least 2 or 3 games. It's just like it's been lingering for a while. It looked like he really aggravated it. I hope that he's back soon too, at least for a playoff run. That would be huge. It's just unfortunate because he was on a run where he was almost breaking the Rams touchdown record for a receiver. And he is obviously opening up things for the offense, even if he's not putting up crazy stats. He comes in big moments, and even if he's not putting up crazy stats, he opens things up for the rest of the offense. And for guys like Puka Nacua, like you have to respect him. And so defenses are going to definitely play us differently, and this loss of Devontae definitely hurts. And so I just hope we get him back soon enough. Again, it's a good thing that we have a mini bye after the Thursday night game, but just really wish we had him here for Seattle for sure. Grandizer says, Rams House, Mumfield had a huge chance to earn maybe that 3rd or 4th wide receiver spot. He had that deep pass so close. Yeah, that's one of those passes where it's like if you throw it up to Nacua, he probably comes down with it. Nacua just catches everything, though. It's like there's glue on his hands all the time. But, yeah, Mumfield, that's definitely a tough position to put him in, especially as just like a late-round pick, rookie year kind of thing. He still almost had it. But the Rams have used him quite a bit, especially since that Jacksonville game when he had that touchdown. He's been implemented in this offense a lot. Even in the 13 personnel, he's the lone wide receiver. So I definitely think he's going to get more opportunities with Devontae out. Very good route runner. He's nowhere near where Devontae is right now, but it's going to be interesting to see how he steps up if the Rams use him in that role more. Striker's Corner says Goff is Darnold. Yeah, I mean, Goff, the big thing with Goff is if you can get pressure on him, especially with a 4-man rush, he crumbles. And a lot of the times he'll either throw it into the dirt or he'll make a bad decision and throw an interception. Where you look at Stafford, he's going to hang in there and try to make the throw, take the hit, and most of the times it's a completion. Like he has so many of those throws over his career and different arm angle kind of throws. For Goff, it just feels like he just kind of shuts down in his brain, and it feels like he almost panics a little bit there. I wouldn't say he's as turnover prone when those things happen, but I think that Goff and Sam Darnold are definitely pretty similar quarterbacks. Los Angeles Rams 2025 remaining schedule. They are 11-3 at Seattle Seahawks, at the Atlanta Falcons, and then at home for the Arizona Cardinals. It's going to be a fun finish to the season. Definitely excited to see how this one plays out. If again, the big thing that makes getting the number 1 seed in the first round bye even more important now. Knowing that Devontae Adams is probably going to be out for a little bit, if you can get that 1 seed, you can just completely take that week off for the number 1 seed and get Devontae Adams and some other players healthy and back and give some vets some rest. That would be huge for sure. Striker's Corner says, my game balls, Landman, Turner, Puka, Colby. That's definitely some really good ones to give it out there. I honestly really wouldn't change anything there. I think all those guys definitely balled out there, and it's just fun to see the different kinds of players that ball out for the Rams each week because you have so many different guys that can do it. And definitely Nate Landman, Kobe Turner, Puka Nacua, Colby Parkinson has some big ones. And Devontae Adams, I still think, really helped things there on some of those critical third downs there when the Rams were really trying to stretch that lead out. He helped on some of those deep digs before he got hurt. The Rams corners play better if the D-line is aggressive. I agree. If the D-line is aggressive, if they're getting in the face, and again, in zone coverage, I think the Rams DBs play better than they do in man. I mean, they're not terrible in man coverage, but I think like Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown make a lot of people look silly, and you play man. Rams corners, let's face it, aren't like the most elite in the league when you look across the landscape, but they're also not terrible. They're not trash. So we'll see what ends up happening here as the season goes on. I don't think it's going to cost the Rams a Super Bowl at all, but we'll see what ends up happening. Grandizer, Rams players stock up and stock down. I'm going to need your guys' help in the comments for this one. I would say stock up Puka Nacua. I mean, he's just continuing to do incredible things. The amount of improvement that he's had from last year and the years before, as good as he was, is incredible. I mean, he struggled with drops a lot, especially the rookie year, but even last year, he's almost one of the most reliable catching receivers in the NFL. He had a drop today, ironically, but Puka Nacua just continues to do insane things. I don't know where this Rams offense would be without him, so I would put him in the stock up. I would put stock down Rams corners like Emmanuel Forbes and Kobe Durant. But like again, it's a tough matchup that they had in there, but to allow what was it? It's like I'm trying to remember what the stats were. I'm gonna take a look here. Yeah, to allow 163 yards, 134 yards to both those guys. They're both incredible receivers, but I would put them on a stock down for sure. They played a little bit worse than what I would have expected for sure. Stock up, Rams running game, Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, another 160-yard performance between the both of them. 3 total combined touchdowns between both of them. So the Rams run game, I would put stock up. Stock down, a little bit leaky in pass protection, I would say, for the Rams offensive line. They're still really good at run blocking, but the offensive line struggled just a little bit. It just felt like leaky at times, and there would be times when there would be 3 or 4 different guys winning at one time, and Stafford would have to dirt it or try to make a play. And even Coleman Shelton had like 3 or 4 different snaps today that were really off, whether it was like really far to the left or over Stafford's head. So I would put that in stock down just a little bit. Colby Parkinson stock up, just continuing to step into the role that Tyler Higbee played, and he's just playing really well, especially after the way last year went. So I'd put him in that conversation. Rams run defense stock up. I would also say that to hold a team like the Lions to only 70 rushing yards is incredible between those two running backs. I mean, not many teams can do that, so I would put them in there. But yeah, what would you guys have to say about that? Strikers corner, Q Lake, they need their leader. Yeah, Josh Wallace played a lot of snaps there against St. Brown in that slot. I really wonder how different it would have been if we had Lake out there. That's a really good point. He's just, I mean, he wears a lot of different hats on this defense. He's a really good man cover corner, one of the best tackling Rams next to Cam Curl. So hope to get Lake back soon, especially in this playoff push that the Rams are making. And as they get into playoffs, getting Q Lake is going to be huge because, again, really good point that you made there. I knew going into the game, St. Brown was going to be a problem, especially without Quentin Lake. But you kind of forget as the game's going on, like Quentin Lake would have been big for this game because St. Brown was just everywhere. 13 catches, 160 something yards, a couple touchdowns there. So yeah, getting Lake back is going to be huge. Juno Trooper says Corum up. He's been on fire these last few games. That's a good call out there. And like how many times do the Rams do that inside zone or the duo kind of run play called and Corum bounces it outside and gets another 20 or 30 yards? Like I don't love when the Rams use him in the short yardage situations because I think that's what Kyren Williams does best out of the two. I think that Corum is more the home run hit guy. We saw that last week against the Cardinals. We saw that a couple times today. But Kyren Williams is definitely that guy that, like, if you need 2 or 3 yards or you're in a critical situation to close out the game like the Rams were in, you give it to Kyren Williams. And these two complement each other well. But Corum has certainly been making the most of his opportunities, and he's been getting a lot of explosive runs for the Rams behind this good offensive line. So good call there. Your boy Johnny94 says we need Quentin Lake back. Secondary has been bad since he got injured. That's definitely a good call there for sure. If you get Quentin Lake back in the fold here, while I don't think that it's going to be leaps and bounds better, like the secondary as a whole, it's definitely going to improve a lot. And if you had him in this game, I still think that Jameson Williams and St. Brown still have some good games, but I don't think it looks as close as it does of what they did today. Lake just makes that big of an impact. Mike, the LA Dons fan, says, congratulations to your Rams. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it. I don't know if you're a Lions fan. Based on the comment, it sounds like you're a Lions fan, but it says LA. So let me know if you're a Lions fan or not, but I appreciate the congratulations there. Your boy Johnny says pass rush needs to step up. That's a good call too. I mean, like the Lions were doing something smart where, especially first half, when the Rams were in their run personnel, heavier bodies there to try to stop the run. Like you see Tyler Davis in there, you see Puna Ford in there, even sometimes Des Johnson on the edge. The Lions took advantage of that when they were in those run looks, and they got some good protection up there for Jared Goff to throw those. But it does feel like it feels like we're still waiting on the Rams to have one of those dominant pass rush games, or at least just be affecting quarterbacks every play. I did feel like the first half Goff had a lot of time to be able to work with, and definitely hope that you clean that up and get more consistent, good pass rush here as we head into the playoffs, because that was a big strength of the Rams last year, and you're going to need it again against good quarterbacks, and just glad they're able to step up there in the second half for sure. Paul says, how come Rams defense is always soft in the first half? I don't know. I think in this kind of game, I mean, there's a lot of different weapons with the Lions. They're coming in desperate, trying to win the game. And so you're going to get like their best punches there, and they have some phenomenal players out there. But it does feel like the Rams kind of feel teams out in the first half. It does feel like they're just trying to get a feel of what teams are doing and make the adjustments. That is one thing that has been consistent over the course of the season. I'd say maybe outside of that Panthers game, but even in that game, they made some good second half adjustments there. It does feel like the Rams kind of feel their opponent out. The Rams offense is able to kind of keep pace with the team and then figure things out. Now, I hope the Rams are able to make adjustments and beat teams a little bit quicker there on defense and make those adjustments quicker because they have the personnel to be able to do it. But it did feel like, especially in this game, you're going up against a good Lions team. You're just trying to figure them out there, and got set up in good field position there on that Aiden Hutchinson pick. That definitely didn't help things out there. But I think if I were asked the question if I would rather have the Rams defense start out strong and then tail off, or start out kind of weaker and then get stronger as the game goes on, I pick the second option every day, and it feels like that's what the Rams do well. They make those adjustments, they lock in, and it feels like in those passing scenarios, especially late in the game, that's when their pass rush wakes up. So we'll see as the season goes on if that continues, but we'll see. Victory Sunday. I think we proved our mental ability today, like the Bills. you know, I think we proved our metal today, like the Bills. That's my bad. Metal this year is special. Yeah, the mental ability to be able to stay in this game. I don't think the 2024 Rams win this game. I don't think the 2023 Rams win this game. Uh, the teams like that we had in 2024 and 2023 were more defensive led, oddly enough. Offense wasn't putting up a ton of points. And if you got down in a hole like we were, especially going into half there a little bit, I mean, again, getting that 3 was huge to make it a one possession game. In the past, the Rams kind of would have been done there and they would have fallen under the pressure. But the Rams were able to stay resilient and stay stable. And as Payo Time said, they played a great third quarter there. And yeah, they definitely proved their mettle like the Bills did. That was a crazy comeback by the Bills. Oh, okay. Mike says, no, not a Lions fan, but I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Just congratulating the Rams. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I was like, I feel like he's a Rams fan, but based on his comment, like the way it's worded, it felt like you're a Lions fan. So either way, I appreciate the congratulations. We all get to enjoy this as Rams fans. What a win it was today for sure. Do anybody know if the Lions were healthy? Yeah, the Lions were very beat up. That's the thing, especially on defense. Like they didn't have Brian Branch, they didn't have Terry Arnold, they didn't have Kirby Joseph. Their offensive line has dealt with some injuries there too, so they were beat up, especially defensively. But as I said in my preview video, I didn't think that made a difference. Like this Lions defense, especially when there's a lot on the line, they are frisky, they play physical, and they play better than what the names on the back of the jerseys say. Even some of those role players step up. I think that's a credit to Dan Campbell and the culture. So yeah, they were definitely beat up there, but the Rams definitely have their fair share of injuries. You got Tyler Higbee, Havenstein, who I'm not sure if is going to be a starter anymore here for the Rams. Quentin Lake, as we were talking about earlier. Braden Fisk even got beat up in this game for sure, too. So definitely both sides dealing with injuries, but yeah, the Lions were going through it for sure. Paul says Thursday Night Football in Seattle. That's going to be a fun one. It's going to be stressful. I know that for sure. I think it's going to be low scoring, like our last time that we played the Seahawks there. And I mean, the Seahawks, as much as we don't want to admit it, they still almost won the game. It was 21-19, I believe, or 21-20, something like that. Let me go back and check this. It was a very close game, Rams versus Seahawks. The last time we met, yeah, 21-19. Rams won last time, and that was when the Seahawks had, I think, 5 turnovers in that game, and the Rams barely were able to hold on there. And so Rams playing in Seattle. Stafford still has not lost to the Seahawks in his career, so that's obviously a positive. But losing Devontae Adams, going into a team that's red hot. I mean, they almost lost to the Colts today in Phillip Rivers. Like they almost pulled that off against the Seahawks. So I guess that gives us hope. But man, it's gonna be a tough one there in Seattle. I know that there's some Rams fans really confident that like Sam Darnold's gonna see ghosts again and all that, but my point is like they turned over the ball 5 times the Seahawks did, and they still almost beat us in SoFi. So I'm definitely nervous for that game. I still think it's gonna be a close game. But I guess you can also say like the Rams offense didn't play their best in that game, and it's just a clash of 2 really good teams. So it's going to be stressful. It's going to be tight. It's a short week. Both teams are going to be a little bit beat up, and it's going to be a fun one. Will the LA Rams score over 100 points total remaining in the regular season? So they have 3 games left. I think the Seahawks game this week is going to be tight. It's going to be close and lower scoring. Falcons, their defense is underrated. Cardinals, I would honestly probably go under 100 points for the rest of the season, mainly because the Seahawks are on the schedule there. But honestly, with the Falcons and with the Cardinals, you could put up some points there. But I do think the Falcons defense is like stingy enough. They have playmakers on that team. So I would say under, honestly. What about bringing back Bobby Trees, Rams Mob says? I mean, I would not be opposed to that at all. I don't think the Rams are going to do it because, I mean, we got a guy similar in that in Jordan Whittington, and we obviously have Tutu Atwell. We have Kanate Mumfield. I would love Bobby Trees back just personally. He's one of my favorite players that played for the Rams in the past. Just a team guy. Just love Robert Woods there. But, I mean, we've had opportunities. I think it's been since probably like week 5 or week 6 that he's been off any team, just available to be picked up, and the Rams haven't even looked into that. Now with injuries, maybe you can make an argument, but I think the Rams are confident with a guy like Whittington to play that Bobby Trees kind of role. But I wouldn't be down, or I wouldn't be opposed to it, I should say. Granddaddy says, Rams house, do you think the sort of dip in the Rams defense is that offenses are starting to figure them out, or It's just the up and down of the game. Everyone has their ups and downs each week. That's a really good question. I think teams are figuring out effective ways to move on this Rams team. Now, the Rams defense all year has never been a team to keep teams' yardage down and not let them move the ball. They have been kind of bend but don't break. Like, they step up when you get past the 50. They make the stops and either force you to take a field goal, or they'll get a turnover in some sort of fashion. So they've always kind of let teams move down the field on them. It's usually just like when they clamp up is when they clamp up. But I do think teams are figuring out, if you run the football, if you get the ball out fast, you're going to be able to beat this team and kind of wear them out. That's what the Eagles did against us. That's what the 49ers did against us. That's what the Panthers did against us. And there's definitely a formula out there. Now, today was interesting because there are a lot of longer developing plays that the Lions had and that Jared Goff had where the pass rush just wasn't getting home. And I think that's a big thing. You're missing Quentin Lake, who is one of the best nickels in the NFL, and just does a lot of different things for this Rams defense. He's been out for a while, and the defense has kind of dipped since then. But also the pass rush hasn't been as dominant. Some of that's to teams running the ball well. Some of that's to them just getting the ball out fast. And so I think it's definitely like a mixture of things. But I don't think that it's things like the Rams defense is just regressing. I think there's context behind it. But I would say from week one to now, teams definitely know a little bit more ways to know like how to beat this defense. But that's true for any NFL team. So it kind of a mix of everything that you said in that comment, in my opinion. Ducendo says Rams probably he says the Rams probably sweep Seattle. I'd be down for that. Maybe I'm just in the minority here. I think this one is going to be really close. Right now, like, I'm almost expecting a loss to the Seahawks. I'm not sure if that's how I'm going to feel in a couple of days when I do my game preview. But, like, man, they're so hot right now. I know the Rams they're capable to do it, but, like, that game has me nervous for sure. Yeah, the Lions were missing both their stud safeties. They mean so much to the Lions. And, yeah, the fact they're able to stay in this game without those safeties, without Terrion Arnold at cornerback, like, that just speaks to the culture that they have. Like I said, they just play feistier than what the names would suggest. So definitely hats off to them there for sure. That makes sense because they didn't really look like the Lions from what I'm used to. Just saying. Yeah, definitely didn't. I mean, they put up a good fight, but they're definitely missing some of their top players for sure. One huge knock on the Lions is that they didn't trade for another pass rusher like the Eagles did. Yeah, and even in the offseason, a lot of people are kind of pegging them to draft a good pass rusher in the first round or make a move in the offseason. They didn't even address it there either. So definitely valid. I mean, they got home a couple times, had some good pressures, but definitely would have helped them if they had another guy like an impact pass rusher to help out Hutch there. I think the Rams have improved a lot since the last Seattle game. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're hoping for. Obviously, again, Stafford hasn't lost to the Seahawks. I just have like an ominous feeling about the Seahawks game. I think it's going to be close. I hope the Rams don't lose it. As long as the Rams win it, I'll be happy. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a nerve-wracking one. We're going to have to win out to keep the number one seed in the NFC and the NFC West. Yeah, so you're going to have to beat Seattle, which is the toughest one, beat Atlanta, and beat Arizona. If you just get past Seattle, I think the Rams are looking pretty good. The Seahawks do worry me, though. I keep mentioning it. They do worry me a little bit, so definitely going to have to keep on getting these wins. If the Rams win like 6-3 against the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, I'm happy. Like, just get out of there with a win. They're a tough team. They didn't look bad, just not as good or as strong as they normally do is all. Okay, you're talking about the Lions. Yeah, they're definitely missing some pieces there. They still gave us their best fight, their best punch. I'm just glad that the Rams were able to make those adjustments and come back and win this game the way that they did. But that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you, everybody who's in the comments and who listened to my post-game thoughts. I appreciate it. Just another Rams Victory Monday coming up tomorrow. Very excited about that. And yeah, that's going to do it for me, though. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Horns up and God bless.